I think it will really encourage many of you here to know a little bit about the testimony of George McDowell.
Well, he came from an incredibly difficult and broken family background. So my dad's dad was a drunk. My grandpa actually said to my dad when he was walking out the barn sometime, he said, son, you were an accident. You weren't even wanted. Well, to make a long story shorter, my dad went to college and he saw a group of Christians. They not only had a love for one another, but a love for others, and he wanted it. So he asked them casually, he's like, hey, what made your life different? And a girl looked at my dad and she said, Jesus Christ. He goes, don't give me religion. She said, I didn't tell you anything about religion. I said the person of Jesus Christ. So that actually challenged my dad on the spot. They said, you think you're pretty smart? Why don't you use your training and education to go write a book and prove that Christianity is false? So he had enough money to travel to Europe to talk to professors and go to museums and try to gather the evidence to prove Christianity is false. And he ended up looking at the evidence going, the Bible's actually true. Jesus has risen from the grave and Jesus is God. And he ended up becoming a Christian. And he went out to lunch with his dad and he was sitting down with him. And he looked at his grandpa, who was a drunk and who was abusive. He looked at him and he said, Dad, I love you. Again, my grandpa. And he asked my dad, point blank, he goes, how can you possibly love a father like me? And he said, Dad, 6 months ago, I hated you, but I'd become a Christian and Jesus has changed my life. And he got to lead his grandfather to Christ. And so that was my dad's story.